Hey guys, my name is Rachel and welcome back to my channel. So the case that I have for you guys today is a very interesting one that was just recently brought to my attention, and I started looking into it, and the circumstances are so strange, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say about it. This is an older case, but there have been very recent developments that I will talk about later in the video, but I am really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about them. It really is a very frustrating case that I feel like a lot of you are going to have very strong opinions about, so with that being said, let's just jump right into it. Today, we are going to be discussing the unsolved disappearance of Dwan Sims. Dwan Sims was born October 29th, 1990. He was such an adorable little boy who was only 4 years old when he went missing. Now, on December 11th, 1994, Dwan's mother, who was 25 years old at the time, decided to take him to the mall so the two could go Christmas shopping. They left around 1:30 p.m. to go to the Wonderland Mall in Livonia, Michigan, and arrived to the mall between 1:40 and 2 p.m. And she parked her Ford Thunderbird in the north parking lot. When they first got to the mall, they headed directly into Target. Dwan was looking at the different items he wanted and picked out a videotape that he wanted, but his mother said that she couldn't get it because she didn't have enough money. So at around 2:30 p.m., they exited the Target and entered into the main part of the mall. They were going to meet up with Beverly Harris, Dwan's mother and Dwan's grandmother, to go shopping with her. Dwan told Dwan that they could ask Beverly, his grandmother, if she had enough money for the VHS tape. Beverly worked part-time at the Women's Foot Locker that was located across the mall, so they were going to head that way to go see her. As they were walking, Dwan was walking right next to his mother, but as they kept walking, he eventually trailed behind, and he was walking behind her. They were chatting a little bit as he was walking behind her, and at one point, they were approaching a toy store, KB Toys, and Dwana asked Dwan a question, but there was no answer. Immediately, she looked behind her, and Dwan was no longer there. She immediately panicked and started looking around, but he wasn't anywhere. But at this point, she thought it was very possible that, while she wasn't watching, he just ran into the toy store on his own and was just in there, and she would find him very shortly. Especially being 4 years old, it's very common that you'll be doing one thing and then something catches the eye of the child and they just run off and go chase whatever they are so focused on. So she went around the KB Toys and looked down every aisle to see if he was there, but he wasn't. So then she went around to a bunch of other nearby stores to see if he had run off to any of those, but again, he was nowhere to be found. She looked around for about a half hour before stopping the first person who worked at the mall that she could, a maintenance worker at the mall, and told her what happened. Of course, the maintenance worker immediately alerted the security at the mall. They all pretty much scoured the entire mall in search for him for about an hour, but just could not find him anywhere. At this point, they notified the Livonia Police Department, who responded immediately. Now, the reason that they waited so long was because usually in a lot of these cases, when a child goes missing at the mall, they are usually found by security within a half hour to an hour. It's almost always a case of a child, wandering around and then getting lost in a crowd. So they really didn't think that the police needed to get involved at first because, again, they usually find the child and they're perfectly fine, no danger, anything. So they waited for about an hour of searching until they actually notified police. Once police got to the mall, they conducted a huge search and notified every employee at the mall, told them what was going on, and gave them Dwan's description of a 4-year-old black male child who was 3 feet tall and 50 pounds, wearing a blue hoodie with a yellow, green, and blue windbreaker and a winter jacket with dark blue sweatpants, so they could just keep an eye on the lookout for him. They searched every square inch of that mall up and down multiple times, looked in every possible nook and cranny that a child could possibly be. They did a grid search. They searched the alleyways and even areas outside of the mall, but he was nowhere to be found. This is when they notified Dwan's father. Now, just as a quick side note, Dwana and Dwan's father were separated at the time, and Dwana was seeing somebody else. So, of course, when he was notified, he showed up to help with the search, and he was completely frantic, trying to figure out exactly what happened to his little boy. But pretty much at first, security workers at the mall seemed to be very assured and confident that they were going to find Dawan in that mall somewhere. Again, most of these children get found, and it's actually very uncommon for a child who goes missing in a mall to actually turn out to be something this bad. There are always reports of missing children in the Wonderland Mall, but every single time, without a doubt, they were found. But time just kept passing, and there was absolutely no sign of Dawan. So they really started to worry if this case was different than the rest of those cases. Now, as they were conducting their searches, a police officer and a security worker asked Dawana to go with them to the Target to ask her exactly what happened when they got to the store and how long they were there. And she pretty much just told police officers the exact same timeline that we just went over before. They also wanted to see if Target had any surveillance footage that they could search through, and sure enough, they did. They had cameras at the entrances and the exits of the store that were in fact working at the time that they entered and exited the Target, and police asked if they could review it. Now, as Dawana and the officers were reviewing these tapes at about 1:44 p.m. on the tape time, Dawana pointed out a woman and a small child as being her and Dawan. The tape showed them holding hands walking around the store and showed the woman stopping to talk to the child, and this is when Dawana said that this is when she told Dawan that he couldn't have the videotape. After this, the two are seen walking around a little bit longer, then leaving the Target until you can no longer see them in the frame. And she said she remembers walking around and leaving through those specific doors. So all's good. Everything matches up. The story seems to be exactly how she said it was, and it was backed up by the security footage. But police decided to keep on watching these security cameras because we know that it wasn't long after they left when Dawan went missing. So they watched a little bit longer to see if maybe there was a suspicious person following them, or if they could see someone leaving the store with Dawan, because if someone took him, then they probably would have just grabbed him and turned around with him, walking back out of the Target store, since that was the one that was closest to the exit, but they didn't see anything like that. So the police officer that was initially reviewing the footage with her called in another officer to watch with them, and they all watched the video again, where Dawana once again outlined exactly the actions of what she was doing on the footage. But then police asked if they could enlarge and enhance the image of the woman on the security tape that Dawana pointed out as being her. But when they did, something didn't quite match up. Dawana was sitting right next to police wearing a plain black coat with no hood on it, and she wasn't wearing a hat. And again, this was just, an hour or two after Dawan had gone missing. But the woman in the image on the security camera was wearing a brown hooded jacket with a white graphic on it and was wearing a baseball cap. So as she's sitting right there, police can tell that this person on the security footage is not Dawana. So of course they asked her about it, saying, this isn't you, the clothes don't match up. And after sitting in silence for a minute or two, all she really had to say was that the coat in the security footage is definitely black, not brown, that the hood is just her coat's color, and then she really didn't have anything to say about the baseball cap. Police once again pointed out the differences in clothing, and once again she just sat there silently for a few minutes, but obviously the police were not convinced that this was her whatsoever. So eventually, after they asked, she finally said, okay, well, I guess that isn't me. So police started watching more and more of the footage to see if they could spot her or Dawan. They watched about an hour before she got to the mall until an hour after, and didn't see Dawana on the security footage at all. So they went around to these different witnesses who were at Target and around the mall, and there wasn't a single person who have claimed to see the two at the mall together whatsoever. However, witnesses did claim to see Dawana by herself. Two separate people in two separate accounts said that Dwana was walking in the mall by herself. I am not sure exactly where they said that they saw her in the mall, but this was very strange because she wasn't seen on any of the security cameras at the mall that they checked, even by herself. There was one entrance to the mall that didn't have any security footage, so it's possible that that's the one that she went through, but we don't know for sure. All we do know for sure is that she didn't walk through the Target entrance like she had said she did. This conflicting information was very strange because according to the security officer who initially helped her look for Dwan, she was in a total panic, desperately searching for her son. She was hysterically crying, couldn't speak, and absolutely seemed like a distressed mother who just lost her son. But it was so weird that she was so clearly lying about the timeline and wasn't seen on any surveillance footage whatsoever, and there were no witnesses who could place Dwan at the mall at all. At this point, police were convinced that Dwan was never at the Wonderland Mall that day to begin with, and started to think that maybe Dwana actually had something to do with Dwan's disappearance. They started questioning her and trying to get every single last detail of what happened, but Dwana was getting very flustered and was getting very overwhelmed quickly. Police actually questioned her for over 18 hours, which was probably absolutely brutal, but police said that they only questioned her that long because she just was not giving up any information and wasn't being very cooperative. I also want to mention that apparently when Dwana and the security guards first started searching for Dwan, she failed to tell them that Beverly, Dwan's grandmother, was working across the mall. This was strange because, as we know from earlier, she told Dwan that maybe she would have the money to buy him this VHS tape that he wanted, so him knowing that his grandmother is working across the mall, knowing that she may be the one buying him this item that he wanted, he could have just started running across the mall towards his grandmother when Dwana wasn't looking. That could have steered all of these searches in a completely different direction, possibly expanding the search near the Foot Locker where she worked instead of just focusing on the area and the stores around Target. Someone could have easily taken him as he was rushing to his grandmother, but we wouldn't know because she didn't tell them. She did tell police after they arrived about Beverly working there, but it was clearly already too late. So it was just very weird that all of these random things just weren't adding up. So, like I said, police started to look at Dwana as being responsible for Dwan's disappearance and wondered again if he had even ever been at that mall. But Dwana said that it was actually police who were at fault for not being able to find Dwan. She said that police didn't really put much effort into finding Dwan because he was black. She said, quote, "This little black boy is lost in an all-white city. Livonia just wants this to go away. One detective even said to me, 'Why don't you just say you lost Dwan in Detroit so we can be done with this?'" Which, of course, if this is true, it's absolutely disgusting. That is something that we see happen, especially back before the 2000s, but even still to this day, where police just don't take a case seriously because the person involved is black. It's something that happens in a lot of these cases in general, as we've seen here on my channel, where a lot of cases where police just seem to not care and not want to put in any effort towards the case. But so many people involved in this case, even outside of police, people working at the mall, others who have looked into it, have all said that police actually did scour every single square inch of that mall trying to find him. They put a ton of resources into finding this adorable little boy. After they started to suspect Dwana as responsible, police decided to search her home and the areas around her home, but they didn't find anything there either. They also administered 2 polygraph tests. She failed the first one, and when she went to take the second one, she was failing again and just got so frustrated that she left without even finishing it. Obviously, as we say in almost every single one of my videos, polygraph tests are not the end-all be-all for someone being guilty or innocent, but this was not a good look for her. I could see getting very frustrated when you're failing a polygraph test when you're innocent and just wanting to quit because there's no point in even finishing it if everyone's just going to think you're guilty anyways. I know that I get so incredibly frustrated when I'm telling the truth and someone won't believe me. And I can even see just how frustrated she could be getting knowing that they're spending so much time into her when she knows that she didn't do anything. But at the same time, she needs to know that some of the things that she's said and done simply just don't add up, and that's why they're looking at her. When a child goes missing, the parents are always looked into because a lot of the time they're the ones responsible. So the fact that she's getting frustrated when it's pretty much standard procedure, which I'm sure they explained to her and she knows that they do this in every case, it says a lot about her attitude towards the investigation. I will also mention that she did move out of state right after the disappearance, which can be looked at as weird as well. Obviously, some people feel the need to get away from this thing that caused them so much distress simply for the peace of mind. But from my understanding, she moved pretty quickly after all this happened, so it really just puts a bad taste in my mouth. You'd think that if your kid goes missing and you're still hopeful that eventually they'll be found, that you'll stay in the area to keep up with the local police to find out any updates or to help with any future searches, or even just to feel closer to the child who went missing in that town. We have even seen so many cases where a parent keeps the child's bedroom the same for years and years and years. Parents who keep the porch light on every single night hoping that eventually they'll come home, who stay in that house specifically because they want their child to come back. And yes, again, everyone mourns in their own way, everyone mourns differently, but I am just trying to see both sides of the equation. It is very strange that you would just randomly decide to move completely to a new state, not even just a new town nearby, or even out of the house to get rid of any of the negative memories associated with what happened, but to move completely out of state is just so weird to me. I'm not trying to dissect every single one of her movements. Again, I'm just trying to be fair, but someone could say that moving right after your beloved 4-year-old child goes missing is a little bit suspect. So obviously at this point we have two main theories. So obviously it's possible that someone abducted Dwan from the mall that day. This isn't something that's totally out of the question because this is something that happens all of the time, unfortunately. It's so scary how many creeps just hang out at the malls waiting for a chance to just snatch a child from the mall. But other than the fact that Dwana said that she lost him at the mall, there's nothing else even pointing to him as much as being at the mall that day. He hasn't been seen on surveillance, no witnesses saw him, and there was no sign of him being at that mall. It's not like he left a shoe behind or left behind maybe his winter jacket or any other thing that would show that he was there. There was absolutely nothing. No one as much as saw Dwan at the mall that day besides Dwana. So that leads me to the next main theory, which is that Dwana is involved. Now, I don't know a lot about the family history. I don't know about the home life. I don't know what the relationship was like between Dwana and Dwan's father. I know that, again, she was seeing someone at the time that wasn't Dwan's father, but I don't know their relationship either. I don't know if Dwan was a difficult child or an easy child who didn't really give her very many problems. So there's no possible way that we can attribute a motive for why she would want to get rid of her own child. Maybe he was a difficult child and he was just too much to handle for a young mother. She had him at 21 years old, and that is a whole lot of stress for someone so young. So maybe that's why. Or maybe she wanted to get rid of him because he wasn't fitting into her current relationship. I know that that is something that happens in some of these other cases. I know that they did look into the father, and I don't think that they thought he had any sort of involvement because when he did show up to the mall, he seemed genuinely panicked and seemed like he had absolutely no idea what was going on. But that's the thing, is Dwana seemed panicked too. Police didn't think that she seemed suspicious whatsoever in terms of her behavior. The only thing that made them suspicious was the fact that nothing she was saying was adding up, and the fact that she wasn't seen on surveillance video. Now, on the contrary to this, I also want to mention that after this entire thing happened, she was arrested for pulling a knife on a man who she was dating. So it does show that she can possibly get violent at times. Now, does this mean that she's violent enough to get rid of her own child? No. Is it possible that she's only this violent because her mental health is absolute garbage after losing her child that she absolutely loved? Sure. So I only mention this because, again, it does show that she can get violent, but either way, we can't really say why or what caused it. So that is pretty much it for the theories. Dwanna has been missing for 25 years and no one has any idea what could have happened to him until now. On December 11th, 2019, 25 years exactly to the date that Dwan went missing, a man walked into the Livonia Police Department claiming that he believes that he could be Dwan Sims. This man's name is Mike Cash, and he said that he's concerned with some of the information that he's been told about his childhood and provided police with his baby picture and submitted DNA. I personally think that when looking at Dwan's baby picture and this Mike Cash guy's baby picture, they do look similar, but I don't know if they look similar enough to come up with a match by any means. And obviously, police aren't sure what to think either. The Livonia Police Department Captain Ronald Haig, who was originally working on Dwan's case, said that he thinks it's strange that this Mike Cash guy has been posting about the investigation on Facebook, but also told police that he didn't want all of this to be in the media. It's interesting because Dwanna and this man have actually spoken, but she doesn't know what to think either. Apparently, again, he was posting all of this on Facebook about wondering if he is Dwan, and someone tagged Dwanna. The two had private messaged back and forth, and he said that he's trying to find his birth family, and she said she doesn't really know what to think, that it's always possible that it could be him, and that she wants to stay hopeful, but she isn't going to go all in believing that this really is him. The two did exchange some more messages after that, but she's not releasing the content of these messages. There was also discussion about the two meeting in person, but Dwanna said that she's not comfortable with that. But like I said, he did submit DNA for testing in December. That should come back in 3 to 4 months, but by the time I get this video out, probably 2 to 3 months. Now, as we know, in a lot of these missing child cases, we can have imposters coming forward saying that they're the child who went missing, but then it comes back that they aren't this child whatsoever. We just saw that with the Timothy Pitson case of this random 20-something-year-old man coming forward saying that he was Timothy, but it turned out to be a complete made-up story and fabrication. But with this case, I think that it is very possible that this man truly is just searching for answers. I truly think that he is out there trying to search for his birth family. Maybe he's from Michigan and is the same age as Dwan and had a very sketchy childhood. So what I'm taking from this is that if this really does turn out somehow to be Dwan, that someone either illegally adopted him, either obviously by snatching him up at the mall and raising him completely normally. We saw that with another case where a kid finds out that he was kidnapped when he was very young and then only realized that he was the victim of kidnapping when his social security number didn't work. I'm not exactly sure the name of the person involved right now, but if I do find it, I will insert an article about it. But either way, that shows us that it is possible. My other thought on this is that maybe Dwanna actually gave up Dwan in an illegal adoption. This opens up a whole new theory that maybe she just didn't want to be a mother anymore, so she went through this underground adoption and went to the mall and acted like she lost him because that would be the only way to explain to everyone why she no longer had him. This would make sense of all the lack of evidence that they found, finding zero evidence of him being harmed at the home, that maybe he wasn't harmed at all, just given up for adoption illegally. At the end of the day, I don't know if I think this will turn out to be Dwan or not, but it does open my mind to numerous other possibilities of what could have happened. Again, I don't think that this guy is just a straight up complete fraud, since he is willing to submit his DNA for testing, and it seemed like he wanted to stay out of the media. Yes, he was posting on Facebook, but some people just kind of post everything on Facebook, expecting only their friends to see it or pay attention. Some people are kind of oblivious when it comes to that, when it comes to social media and posting basically everything that happens in their life. So this almost suggests to me that he's not doing this just straight up for attention from the world. But I don't know. I mean, I personally think that this is a guy who may have been adopted, and maybe his adoptive parents weren't giving him the answers that he was looking for, so he's going out there and searching for the answers himself. I am very curious to see how this will all pan out, but in the meantime, all we can do is wonder. As soon as I do know the results of this DNA test, I will let you all know. So that is all the information I have for today's video. It is such a strange case, and while I don't like sitting here dissecting every single one of Dwana's moves, trying to assign a motive that may not even be the case at all, the details surrounding this disappearance are just so suspicious to me. I do feel bad for her if this really does turn out to be a random mall abduction, but after doing all of this research, I really just think that she must have had something to do with it. Whether it be harming her son or giving him up or whatever it might be, I don't know. I just think that she has something to do with it. I really do wish that I knew more about the family dynamics and what Dwan was like as a child, to at least try and come up with an actual motive why a mother would want to just get rid of her son. But there really isn't anything. I don't want to blame a young mother for just not wanting to be a mother, because we know that's almost never the case. Even if you're, 16, 17 years old when you have a child, a lot of the time that bond is just so strong that you couldn't even imagine your life without them. So again, like I said, I don't want anyone to just look at her age and say, oh, well, that's why she did it. I want people to look at the evidence and come up with their theories that way. But either way, I do want to know what you guys think. And again, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Do you think that Dwana had something to do with Dwan's disappearance? Do you think that it was a mall abduction? And what do you think of this adult man possibly being Dwan? Please let me know in the comments below. But either way, that is all I have for today's video. If you did like this video, please make sure to leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to follow my Twitter and Instagram. Both will be linked down below. Also, if you have absolutely any case suggestions, please send your suggestions over to RachelShannonCases@gmail.com. Every single case that I cover is a suggestion directly from that email or my Patreon, so do not hesitate to send those suggestions over. With that, I hope you guys have a great week, and I hope to see you next time.